Welcome to Lifespark, the podcast investigating health crises and uncovering innovative solutions to tackle them. I'm Conrad, co-founder of Lifespark, and with me is my cousin and co-founder, Jack.
Hey everyone. At Lifespark, we empower people to take control of their health, especially fertility, longevity, and overall wellness. Here we dive into the stories, science, and strategies shaping the future of health in America.
We're excited to have Dr. Jeff Barke, a physician with decades of experience in family medicine and a well-known advocate for personalized health. He's here to share his insights on critical topics like longevity, supplements, and lifestyle choices impacting long-term health. So, Dr. Barke, would love to start with your background. What inspired you to pursue a career in medicine, and how has your approach to overall health evolved over the years?
Well, Jack and Conrad, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I've been a physician now for 30 plus years. My dad was a doctor. My older brother is a doctor. So it was a natural path for me to head in their footsteps. It wasn't really until I was ready to graduate medical school that I discovered I'm actually going to do this thing for a living, at which point I explored a variety of options. I was always an athlete growing up, so I thought orthopedist was the way to go to be an orthopedic surgeon, until I realized the work that orthopedic surgeons do. They're mechanics of the body, and I'm not very mechanically inclined. I can barely change a light bulb, and I don't like standing on my feet for hours at a time. After an exploration of multiple fields, I fell upon primary care or family practice because I could do a lot of what I want to do, and I could defer things that I was uncomfortable with or didn't like. And so now I've been doing this for 30 years, and over the COVID pandemic and the shenanigans that we allowed the federal government to play, I had somewhat of an awakening to re-explore and reevaluate everything related to healthcare that I thought I knew, and it was obvious that I didn't know, whether it was the safety of vaccinations or the cholesterol theory of cardiovascular disease, on and on and on. And I evolved into what I like to now call myself, and that's an integrative, holistic primary care doctor. So my job is to coach patients to master their own health so they don't need to access the healthcare facility and the healthcare system that is mostly corrupt. So certainly I am excited by the potential of the new administration, especially Health and Human Services, assuming he gets appointed and confirmed, and that's Bobby Kennedy Jr. Of course, Health and Human Services is an umbrella under which the CDC, corrupt organization, the FDA, often funded by the industry that they're supposed to oversee, National Institutes of Health that only fund studies that benefit their researchers and line the pockets of the people that work there, and even the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare that really need to be revamped as well. So I don't know if he can pull it off. I don't know what he has in mind, but I certainly resonate with his messages about vaccine safety and the three-letter agencies that are corrupt as hell. So optimistic about the future, but at the same time, I don't really care what happens in DC. I care what happens in my house and how I can serve my patients.
Were you ever subject to that? I know you have a pretty big following across social media channels. Was there ever any shadow banning or anything like that?
Of course, Meta is the organization that owns Facebook and Instagram, and they would ban me all the time, threaten to demonetize what I'm doing. I had a presence on TikTok for like 5 minutes until I was banned on TikTok. And then, of course, when Elon Musk took over X or Twitter, then that opened up again where my ban was removed and I was able to continue to post. So I don't believe a word that comes out of Zuckerman's mouth. He was part of the problem, and he's now just trying to position himself to monetize what's going on in the White House and to pretend as if he was a victim and he wasn't.
So Dr. Barke, you obviously advocate strongly for medical freedom. How does this belief empower men and women for that matter to take charge of their general health?
Well, listen, I see too many men, these 60s and older, that come in and their bodies are beat up from a lifetime of exposure to toxins and drugs, etc. Many men, I think it's estimated that 50% of the adult population is on a statin. Well, statins block the production of cholesterol. Well, cholesterol is necessary for the production of just about every hormone in the body, including in men testosterone. So it is now normal. I mean, like normal to see a 50-year-old guy that has a below normal testosterone level. I've never seen that before in my career. And it's just sort of the thing now. It's below normal, and immediately what they want is to fix it. either go on testosterone or use erectile dysfunction medication, both of which are fine. But I try to get to the root cause and ask the question, why the hell is a 50-year-old who's otherwise healthy's cholesterol below the normal level? That's not normal. And so we try to break it down that way and get them do things that naturally support testosterone, such as get the hell off the statin drug, get out in the sun every day, ideally midday sun, eat healthy meat and plenty of it, drink plenty of purified water, stop eating sugar, detoxify your life, get rid of the fluoride in your mouth, the aluminum under your arms, stop drinking tap water that is poisoning you, etc., etc. And then hopefully that their testosterone bounces back naturally. Sometimes it does, but sometimes we need to go the route of helping them with various testosterone products, ED products, etc.
And Dr. Barke, I'm 31. My doctor just recommended to start me on a statin. I've had high cholesterol since in high school. The first time I went to a doctor for a checkup, I had high cholesterol, right? And so I got to assume that
I would recommend that you find a new doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to the core of that, obviously I know it's old literature, but why are doctors still recommending that to a 31-year-old?
Because that's what we're taught. We're taught in medical school. The disease model for heart disease is if you eat saturated fat, it causes your cholesterol to be elevated. Elevated cholesterol causes cardiovascular disease. I think that's wrong, but we've been taught that for a generation. Statins are the number one prescribed drug in the world. And in the United States, it's $1 trillion industry. Do you think pharma is going to get off that gravy train? And now that all statins are generic, do you think they would celebrate now that their products are less expensive? No, they double down and they make the next generation of cholesterol-lowering medication called PCSK9 inhibitors. Those are thousands of dollars and require an injection. I think the whole premise is wrong. Cholesterol doesn't cause cardiovascular disease. It's inflammation and metabolic dysfunction. And as a matter of fact, there are some studies that show that the higher your cholesterol is, the longer you're going to live and the less likely it is that you'll get dementia or Alzheimer's disease. I think we're doing the public a great disservice by continuing this fraud. This is if we went over we're here in Orange County, if we went down the street to UC Irvine Medical School, that's where I went to school, and listened into a lecture about heart disease, they would be told that cholesterol causes heart disease, and in particular, bad cholesterol. It's bullshit, with all due respect. Here's the analogy I've heard that's not perfect, but it will get your audience an idea. If there is a local fire and we went over to look at the fire to see what was going on, and we pull up on the fire and there's fire trucks and firemen putting out the fire, and we're standing around watching the fire burn, and then a few weeks later we do the same thing. We do this 2 or 3 or 4 times, and each time we see the same thing, fire trucks and firemen putting out the fire. And then you and I sitting around drinking a little whiskey go, hey, you know what? I think the fire trucks and the firemen are the problem, because every time we see a fire, they're at the scene. They must be causing the problem. Yes, cholesterol is at the scene of cardiovascular disease. It's there not to cause it. It's there to help. It helps stabilize the plaques. It helps reduce inflammation. It's there after the fact, like the firemen come once the fire is there. So I think that's a similar analogy. Cholesterol is not the problem. Inflammation and metabolic dysfunction is, and I measure those 2 markers aggressively and then work with patients from lifestyle to supplements and rarely pharmaceutical products to correct those.
So, Dr. Barke, with so much conflicting information out there, how can men and women avoid this confusion and make informed decisions about fertility or their overall health?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's really difficult because most doctors don't get it right. And so patients need to do their own research. They need to do their own investigation, and or they need to find a like-minded physician who can help guide them with the evidence. There's tons of books that have been written on this failed theory of cholesterol. The great cholesterol myth is one of them. Johnny Bowden, I had him on my podcast and interviewed him, and others on and on and on. Jack Wolfson, a natural heart doctor. He has a center in Scottsdale, Arizona. He now lives here in Corona del Mar in Newport Beach, and he believes what I believe. I only refer now to doctors that are of similar mind. I don't want to make decisions for patients. I want to guide them and help them make their own decision. So the same thing with Fertility. Or you go to a fertility doctor, they're going to fill you full of chemicals and do what they're going to do to lean in the direction of what they're incentivized to do. Rarely do they step back, scratch their head and go, why has this occurred? It's not natural. God did not make a mistake when he designed us. If there's something going on, it's not on God, it's on us. We're killing ourselves. We're polluting ourselves. We're eating shitty food. There's toxins in our water. Literally, I call tap water government water. Don't drink it. It's like government schools, public schools. They pollute our kids' minds, and government water pollutes our bodies. We need to fix that kind of thing. We need to detoxify our life. We need to eat clean, learn how to read labels. We need to stop putting poison in our body in the form of certain vaccinations as well. And our body has a remarkable ability to heal itself if we can give it the right substrates, feed it the right foods, reduce our stress, ground in nature, get tons of sunshine. You cannot achieve optimal health without sunshine. And by the way, men and testosterone, ideally, you go lay in your backyard naked, midday sun, and let the sun shine where it normally doesn't shine. Of course, don't get burnt. Of course, check with your own doctor. I'm not prescribing or making any recommendations. These are just general guidelines if you're listening. But sun on your body is so damn healthy. It's necessary for optimal health. We've been told something very different. You should slather on sunscreen and prevent yourself from being exposed. And when sunscreen was invented, fact check me on this, like around the 1950s, what did we see? We saw a huge rise in skin cancers because we're putting these chemicals on our skin. We're avoiding getting in the sun. Vitamin D levels drop, and that's not good for us. So I don't recommend sunscreen. I don't recommend sunglasses. Of course, I don't want you to get burnt. If you're going to be in the sun for a long, long period of time and you have no other way to protect yourself, use some tallow-based and zinc-based sunscreen. Don't use those chemicals. But the best way is wear a big hat, wear long sleeve shirts, physically stay out of the sun that way, not through chemicals.
So longevity has become a really big buzzword with people on the internet. Dr. Peter Attia, Gary Brecker, Brian Johnson, the guy who's, saying don't die. How do you feel about this movement? And when someone does come to you and says, hey, Dr. Barke, I want to live longer, what do you tell them?
I think the longevity movement for many is a tool to monetize whatever it is they're doing. I'm not interested in somebody living longer. I'm interested in them in being healthier and feeling good most of the time. I think they go hand in hand. If somebody is feeling good because they're taking really good care of themselves, they're likely going to live longer as well. But the purpose of life is not to see who can live the longest. I want to create health and help people get healthy for one purpose only, so they can serve the way God wants them to serve. I want them to be healthy so they can fulfill whatever God's mission is for them, not for the sake of being healthy. I love being healthy. I'm very blessed. I take really good care of myself. I feel good most of the time. I am lucky to live in Corona Del Mar, where it's a 10-minute walk and I'm at the ocean. I am blessed to do that. But my purpose is not longevity. My purpose is not health. My purpose is to fulfill whatever it is that God wants me to do. And being healthy and living long helps me and allows me to do that. That being said, absolutely, there are a lot of tools that are coming online now that are available to us that have never been available before to allow us to do just that. Tools like peptides, for example, that are available. Tools like hyperbaric oxygen, red light therapy, cold plunges. You mentioned Gary Brecker. He's huge on that. I cold plunge in the ocean. How lucky is that? Things like grounding. There are grounding sheets if you don't live near the beach like I do. So there are a lot of tools now that are becoming available, and we realize they help people get healthier. If they're healthier, likely they're going to live longer. And so that to me is, I think, the way I view the longevity movement. I was at a conference recently, A4M. That's a big medical group. I think it stands for American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. Dave Asprey was there. He's the guy who originally invented bulletproof coffee. He's got a new coffee brand on the market called Danger Coffee. Really good stuff. And he's in this longevity movement. He said, by the way, if you can possibly avoid it, don't die in the next 5 years, because there are so many things that we're going to be doing, from stem cells and exosomes and plasma pheresis, et cetera, et cetera. They said, so if you're driving down the freeway and you get in a car crash and it's an SUV versus a Prius, I would rather be in the SUV. He meant that tongue in cheek, but his message was be really careful because just ahead, just around the corner, there are even more modalities that are going to allow you to be healthier, feel better. And then the natural corollary of this is going to be live longer.
And I think with that, I have to ask about supplements, right? As you know, supplements are booming. It's growing faster than just about any food, or related industry. The supplement industry is booming. What supplements do you take, if any, and what do you typically recommend to folks?
Yeah, I think they really need to be individualized. In a perfect world, we'd get all our vitamins and minerals from our food. The problem is our soil is deplete of vitamin and minerals. Processed food is garbage. It's hard to do that. So based on extensive blood testing, I then direct people to take certain supplements. So for example, a lot of people are on multivitamins. Most multivitamins are garbage. They're filled with synthetic chemicals. So what I take is I take organ meat. There's a product I happen to like by Designs for Health called Organ Synergy. It's sourced out of New Zealand, healthy beef, hormone-free, antibiotic-free, pasture-raised, etc. And it has liver, kidneys, pancreas, spleen, and heart all in one capsule. Organ meat is some of the most nutrient-dense meat products that you can buy. Most people are not going to eat organs because it's disgusting. I'm not eating organs. I mean, my mom ate liver when I was growing up, but it's just gross. I'm not going to do it. But if you can do it, more power to you. So instead, I take Organ Synergy. To me, that's like a whole food equivalent of a multivitamin. I also think a high dose purified fish oil is important for most people. Fish oils is incredibly anti-inflammatory. So I take a fish oil product. I also take a zinc product called Oyster Zinc by a company named Smidge. And the reason why I take that is zinc is found naturally in oysters. So they take oysters and they turn it into a capsule. And not only does it have zinc, most people take way too much zinc during COVID. 50 milligrams upsets your stomach as a standalone. It needs to have the proper cofactors with it in order to absorb it. So if you get it from the natural product like oysters, low dose, it's going to be absorbed. It's got selenium and copper and other ingredients in it along with it. So those are some of my favorite supplements. I take some magnesium as well and a few other things.
Exercise. How often do I need to work out to get the health benefits, and what routine do you follow?
I think you should be exercising every day. Now, I don't mean going to the gym and working out for 4 hours, but you should have some sort of movement that you do every single day, almost every day. I think it's important at whatever age you are that you weight lift. Building muscle gives us resilience. Building muscle helps keep us lean. Building muscle feels good and protects your body from injury. So I think whether you're a teenager or grandma and grandpa or anything in between, weightlifting should be part of your routine. In a perfect world, you do it with a trainer. So they prevent you from getting hurt and they push you a bit harder than you otherwise might be pushed yourself. Some sort of aerobic exercise to get your heart rate up for at least 15, 20 minutes in a particular zone. And do that again, 3-4 days a week. And then most importantly, I think you should be in the sun and grounding almost every day. I'm lucky. I like to run. I run down to the beach, Corona del Mar. I've got about a 4 to 5 mile loop. Halfway through, I'm in the sand, shoes and socks off. I'm walking into the water. If the weather is halfway decent in shorts, I'll pull my shirt off and I will go soak in the water in the cold ocean. It's not that cold, whatever it is, mid 60s or so, but for me, cold enough. And then it's a way I can also ground. So I try to get some sort of movement every single day. Unfortunately, most of us spend 95% of our time indoors in front of a blue light computer screen, so unhealthy with cell phones pressed against our face. So the more we can disconnect and get in nature, I think the better.
Dr. Barke, I know you recently came out with a new book, Unavoidably Unsafe Childhood Vaccines Reconsidered. Some people worry about potential impacts that these vaccines would have or have on male fertility. What's your take on the science and how should men approach these concerns?
It's a great question, Jack. And what I always try to do with patients is give them informed consent. And if you were to look at any vaccine package insert, I'm looking around as we speak to see one. I usually have one on my desk. Actually, here's one right now. This happens to be for the RSV, respiratory syncytial virus. vaccine, but it doesn't matter because every single vaccine has section 13.1. The sections in the package insert are consistent. So every package insert, the section refers to the same answer to whatever question it is. So section 13.1, I'm going to read. It's a little bit different every vaccine, but they all say the same thing. Genesis and reproductive toxicity studies have not been performed with this vaccine, meaning no vaccine has been studied to see if it causes cancer. No vaccine has been studied to see if it affects your reproductive health. There you have it. I mean, that's informed consent. Every patient should be told this before they get the vaccine, and they're not. So if you knew nothing else about the vaccines except that, section 13.1, and that every vaccine company is immune from liability, that should give you pause. So can vaccines cause problems with your reproductive health? Heck yeah. Can they cause problems with your immune functioning and your hormone functioning? Absolutely. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't get vaccinated, but what you should do is have informed consent. What's the vaccine for? What are the ingredients? What does section 13.1 say? What's the post-marketing studies say? That's section 6.2. Vaccine companies are required to collect data after the vaccine has been road tested. And what are the studies since the original information when the vaccines were brought to market? Nobody knows this. You're never told that. You go into a local CVS and they have advertising for all the vaccines. Get your COVID shot, get your flu shot, get your RSV shot, and get your shingle shot. And while you're at it, get your pneumonia shot. They market it. And then you go up and they say, by the way, it's free with most insurance. You go, I'd like that. Pharmacist comes out, sticks needles in your arm, never gives you informed consent, and away you go. And now you potentially could be injured, and in some situations, severely by these chemicals that you're putting in your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just quick personal experience. I was in business school at Stanford, Dr. Barke, during COVID. And not only did they make us all get the shot, we all had to get boosted as well. And I know multiple people who had really serious side effects, me included. I couldn't sleep for probably 3 months. I would wake up at 3 a.m. and just be wide awake.
Yeah. So Conrad, I recommend now anybody that got the COVID shot once or more should absolutely undergo some sort of detox program. And there's a variety of them out there. The wellness company makes a great product called Ultimate Spike Detox. I think it's a pretty good product. It's based with nattokinase. I put my patients on some sort of spike detox that includes ivermectin as well. Even, this is kind of weird, but I think it's a thing, using nicotine patches can also be very helpful, combined with hyperbaric oxygen, red light therapy. All those are available from a detox standpoint. So it makes me nervous when I hear somebody's gotten boosted with the COVID vaccine, because what we're seeing now is all kinds of immune dysregulation, including turbo cancers, as a result of multiple COVID vaccines. So I'm going to talk to your dad and make sure that he gets you taken care of.
Yes, sir. Thank you. No, I appreciate that. And really quick on the nicotine front, I'm sure you've seen Zyn has just absolutely exploded. All my friends are, popping Zyns when they're working, when they're going out all the time.
Yeah, Tucker's got it.
I've seen Zyns have something that they show that they're neuroprotective on level. What is your general thoughts on nicotine and the pouches? I'm also curious about.
I think nicotine has some therapeutic benefits. It is not harmful. It is not addicting like we've been told for a generation it is. The problem with nicotine traditionally is not the nicotine, it's the delivery mechanism. So when you light tobacco on fire and you inhale it in your lungs, you're not just getting nicotine, you're getting all kinds of carcinogenic crap. So Zyn, or whatever Tucker's new product is, I can't remember what it's called, perfectly reasonable to use. Yes, neuroprotective. It can help with depression. It can help with ADD and other issues as well. So I'm not endorsing it, but I think it's a relatively benign product for people to use. Of course, if you're putting something like that between your gum and your cheek and so forth, go to the dentist regularly, go twice a year. Have a really good oral check to make sure that it's not causing any harm to your mucous membranes in your mouth. Nicotine patches are also available as well. Those are the ones I use as part of a detox protocol, and for other conditions like alternative cancer treatment that I use also.
Yeah. And Dr. Barke, right now in the US, the replacement rate is 1.5. So on average, a couple is having 1.5 kids, and that needs to be at 2.1 for us to maintain our population.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the fertility crisis, and would also have your thoughts on the male side, which usually doesn't get a lot of...
No, it doesn't. We usually blame the women.
Yeah,
think
we
that
get a lot of love.
what I think we should do is we should encourage the red states to increase their fertility and encourage the blue states to continue to have low rates of fertility. That's what I'd like to say. But, like women, men obviously are responsible for half of the issues as well. And when you were exposed to vaccines, when you were exposed to toxins in your environment, when you take shitty care of yourself and you eat like crap, your fertility is going to be affected. Your whole body is one giant interconnected unit, if you will. So you can't expect to eat like crap and not feel good, but your fertility machinery is working just fine. So I think the baseline is clean up your lifestyle, detoxify your life, and work with somebody that knows what they're doing to help you regain whatever fertility that you're trying to regain. And I know Lifespark is in that field, is in that space, and good for you. There's not enough people that are doing that care about men's health, that are attuned to the crisis of fertility that's going on in our country, especially as it relates to men.
Dr. Barke, you mentioned environmental toxins, which have been linked to lower sperm counts. What are the biggest risks, and are there ways that men and women can avoid them?
Yeah, to start with, stop drinking government water. In our tap water, there is so much crap in there. I've done this research here, and even in Newport Beach, you look up the municipal water supply in Newport Beach and look at the components: fluoride, chlorine, heavy metals that the government tells us it's parts per whatever that's actually considered safe. I'm not interested in the government's opinion as to how much water it's okay for me to drink. I'm simply not drinking tap water anymore. So I use a reverse osmosis water filtration system. On my shower head, I have a filtration system because I don't want to stand in a chlorinated, fluoridated, warm water stream when I take a shower in the morning. So stop drinking government water and drink something pure and something fresh. Stop putting aluminum under your arms. Antiperspirants that stop us from sweating are so unhealthy. The aluminum is not good, and preventing yourself from sweating is not good. I've got a sauna at my home that I try to use almost daily. Sweat your ass off. That's one of the ways in which our body detoxifies. We pee, we poop, we sweat, we breathe. Maximize our detox pathways. Stop putting fluoride in your mouth. There is no reason to be doing that. If you look at a tube of Crest or Ames or whatever your favorite toothpaste is that's fluoridated, seriously, if you're listening to this, hit the pause button, walk to your bathroom, grab your toothpaste. If it's toothpaste with fluoride on it, look at the small print and it'll say something like, if you ingest more than the amount designed to brush your teeth, call the Poison Control Center or your local physician. It literally says it there. It's crazy. Why would we put a toxin in our body that if we accidentally swallow it, we've got to call the Poison Control Center? Stop putting fluoride in your mouth. So these are some basic ways to detoxify, and mold is a big problem for many people as well. And testing for mold, especially if you have an older house or you have chronic symptoms that can't otherwise be explained.
With the Trump administration and RFK Jr., we touched on this a little bit, the Make America Healthy Again. If RFK Jr. called you, where would you tell him to start?
Well, he knows where to start, and he's starting, I hope, with vaccines. He's starting with the way our three-letter agencies are funded. CDC, FDA, we need to remove their funding from industry. The CDC and the FDA and the NIH should only be funded by taxpayers. And we should have elected politicians that oversee these agencies, not the bureaucratic state, not career bureaucrats that aren't accountable to anybody. We need those agencies to work for the American people, not for the industries that they're supposed to oversee. I know he also is going to look very carefully at the safety data for childhood vaccines, and I think rightfully so. What most people don't know is that the childhood vaccine schedule was never, ever tested against inert placebo. They were never tested against saline. They were tested either against older generations of the vaccine, or they were tested against the same ingredients that's in the vaccine, minus the antigen, minus the virus particle that we want the vaccine to react against. So the FDA has set very different standards for bringing a drug to the market, as they have for bringing a vaccine to the market. And I think that needs to change as well.
Yeah. One other thing I've seen a lot online is people talking about antioxidants and, different forms of antioxidants. Generally, what is your take on this in terms of getting it from your food, from supplements, the role of antioxidants generally? How do you view them?
Well, the best way to antioxidize is to ground. You should ground. Take your shoes and socks off, get in nature, go walk on the grass. If you're lucky and you live by the beach, shoes and socks off, get in the water, let the water hit your feet. Let the natural magnetic and electric fields of the earth detoxify you and create antioxidants. Of course, there's a lot of supplements out there. There's one of my favorite called Inflammatone by Designs for Health. And it's a multi-supplement antioxidant. It's got curcumin, resveratrol, boswellia, ginger, and a couple other products in it I can't remember. So products like that are good, but there is no substitute to basic clean eating on a daily basis. Getting rid of the sugar, getting rid of the seed oils, getting rid of the artificial colors, the artificial dyes, the artificial flavors. We need to learn how to read food labels. And ideally, what I've said is we should be eating food that comes from God, not from man. Healthy meat, organic fruit, raw dairy, little bit of raw honey, and stay away from things that are processed, and you'll be better off.
Okay. Jack, anything else on your mind before we wrap?
I think, I guess if there's one key message, Dr. Barke, you'd like to share with our audience about taking charge of their health, what would it be?
Well, learn to optimize your own health. And if your physician isn't able to coach you on that, find a new physician. There are a lot of holistic health influencers on social media, on Instagram. I follow a lot of them. You mentioned Peter Attia, one of the smartest guys I know, although I don't agree with him on his perspective on cholesterol. Gary Brecka, super smart. Andrew Huberman, super smart. So I'm always listening to podcasts with different holistic health influencers. Another one is Mark Hyman. He is a functional medicine MD and crazy smart. So the more information you can absorb and then make decisions to optimize your own health. I'll be launching a radio show coming up soon, 1 hour on Saturdays, and that's going to be the title of it, Optimizing Your Health. And I'll bring guests on to teach us and to teach me and to teach you all how to do just that and how to pick and choose the things that you're going to focus on to make yourself just a little bit healthier in 2025.
That's awesome. And just before we sign off, Dr. Barke, where can people find you?
RX4Liberty is my Instagram. That's where I spend most of my time. RX4, and the word 4 is spelled F-O-R, RX4Liberty. I have a website, rx4liberty.com. And of course, I have a physical concierge practice here in Corona del Mar, California. You can just look me up, give the office a call if you're interested in joining.
Fantastic.
Well, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Learned a lot, and we'll keep in touch. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, guys. Having me on.